Simon 5, I think.
I know she's running against him, and then is red to go.
We're up.
Ready? All right, I'd like to call to order the Town of Pembroke Park Charter Review Committee meeting, 6:13. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Chair Bianca Buchanan, she's running late. Vice Chair Gary Schrader.
Here.
Evelyn Cunningham.
Here.
Lucy Weber.
Here.
Paulette Walker.
Here.
We have quorum. You can go on to number 4.
Oh, okay. Are there any changes to the agenda?
None.
Okay. Any presentations?
None.
Shall I? Me to pick up where I left off?
Oh, we're on number 6 right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just need to get the approval of the meeting minutes.
Anybody want to make a motion to approve the approval of the meeting minutes?
Hi.
Will somebody make a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second it.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Vice Chair Gary Schrader.
Here.
Evelyn Cunningham.
Here.
Lucy Weber.
Here.
Paulette Walker.
Here.
So that was to approve the meeting minutes of January 30th, 2023.
We go to old business or the presentation?
Old business.
Any old business?
Presentation by attorney.
Okay, and I see that our chair has arrived. Good evening. Madam
Hi.
Chair. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. You can take back the gavel.
And give her one of the. You have two of the same thing over there?
What?
Another one of
Oh,
those.
yeah.
Thank you.
With your permission, Madam Chair and board members, just, for the record again, my name is Jacob Horowitz. I'm the interim town attorney for Pembroke Park. Nice to see you all again. You may
She needs
recall.
one of these.
Okay. So, you may recall that at our January meeting, we began to go through the proposed charter, which is intended to embrace your various recommendations that have been discussed over the past year, round numbers. We went through the first 3 articles that deal primarily with the powers of the town, the corporate limits, and then really in most substantive detail, the legislative branch of the town government, which really is your town commission. The next article in the charter is the administrative branch of the town, which my intent was to go through this evening. Just one comment as a follow-up to the last meeting. You may recall that we discussed in some detail the concept of staggered terms and transitioning from a system where all 5 members of the commission are elected every 4 years to having a system where every 2 years there's an election in the town and 3 members are elected on a 2-year cycle, and then 2 members are elected on the alternating 2 years. So you don't have a situation where all 5 members of your elected body are up at the same time. You may also recall that the proposal that we had offered provided for a one-time term adjustment to accommodate the staggered terms so that people who were elected in, I believe it was March of 27, would be elected to a 6-year term, and at your request, we changed that to a 2-year term. So just what's before you this evening, I'm not going to get into details. I just wanted to highlight the one change that we made following the last meeting, and this is in section 3.01 of the charter. And the way it'll now read is that commencing with the election in March of 2027, There's the individual elected to serve as mayor, and then the individuals elected to represent Commission Seat 1 and Commission Seat 2 would be elected to a 4-year term in order to provide for staggered terms. And then the individuals elected for Seat 3 and Seat 4 in March of 27 would be elected to a 2-year term. And then you would have an election in 29 and an election in 31, but you would have elections every 4 years thereafter. So you would have 2 people elected in March of 27 to a 2-year term, and then thereafter you'd get on the routine 4-year term cycle, and you would have elections every other year in odd-numbered years. So that was the one substantive change that we made following the last meeting. Moving forward now into Article 4, and I know we went for some time last time. It was suggested that there may be some interest in keeping tonight's meeting a little shorter. I know we covered 3 articles in the charter last time, so my intent tonight is to just get through the administrative side of the charter, because again, time really is on our side as it relates to this process. We have elections in the town next month, which is coming up this week, and then we have to look forward to getting on a general election ballot, and we have some time to do that. The next elections we're probably looking at are August or November of 2024, when we would have the next election in the town. And we have elections, again in March of 23, but then we don't have elections again until the August primary of 24 or the November general election in 24. So those would likely be the ballots we're targeting to get something on for the voters of Pembroke Park to consider. And we know this is going to require some process where we present this to the town council, town commission as well, and they have the opportunity to review and really digest your recommendations. And once we have a fully elected town commission the end of next month, we'll be able to hopefully start that process. But Article 4 of the charter, which is really the substantive provision I want to get into tonight, as I mentioned, speaks to the administrative side of the town. You all have recommended transitioning the governmental structure in Pembroke Park from a commission-driven form of government to a commission-manager form of government, where you would have a commission who are the elected policymakers, and you would have a town manager who oversees the day-to-day operations of the town. This was the analogy that we mentioned last time, where in a corporate setting you have a board of directors who would essentially be your elected body, but then you've got a CEO who deals with the day-to-day operations of the corporation. At the municipal sense, your elected commission, your 5-member elected body, would hire a town manager, and that professional would be tasked with overseeing the daily operations of the town, the day-to-day administrative services of the town, and dealing with all of the personnel. You have under your proposed charter form, you have a situation where you've got your commission that would appoint a town manager and a town attorney. All of the other employees of the town would report to the town manager. And in section 4.01, that's where we really get into the details of the function of the town manager. Now, currently, just for reference, this position is not identified anywhere in the Pembroke Park. We know that we have a town manager, but the town manager is referenced in the code, which is controlled by the commission. That position is not codified as part of the charter, which is really governed by the people of Pembroke Park, by the electorate. I've taken some liberties in section 4.01 and pulled from some other municipal charters of comparable size, comparable population, to give you all something to think about when it comes to the qualifications and the appointment of the town manager. And the way that I've presented it, it identifies that there shall be a town manager who would be the chief administrative officer of the town and who would serve at the will and pleasure of the town commission. The town commission, by ordinance, resolution, or employment agreement, would identify a job description for the manager and provide standards for the work schedule and terms and conditions of employment. And typically when a town hires a manager, that relationship is memorialized in an employment contract, which identifies the duties and responsibilities of the manager consistent with the town charter, and also gets into issues like severance, benefits, termination for cause, termination without cause. What happens if the manager is ready, willing, and able to serve, but for whatever reason the commission is no longer interested in his or her services. All of those things are identified and addressed in an employment contract between the manager and with the commission. That contract obviously is approved publicly by the commission, and there's certain statutory limitations on what can go in a public employment contract. For instance, when it comes to severance, there's a statutory cap on 20 weeks severance for public employees. So you couldn't have a situation where a manager was terminated without cause and then paid a year's salary as a result of that termination. There's a cap on severance at 20 weeks for public contracts in the state of Florida. But all of that is referenced as part of the contract between the manager and the commission. But the appointment process really is governed by your town commission. And we've left the language fairly broad. And all we say is that the town manager shall be appointed or removed by motion or resolution adopted by a majority of the full commission. Now, how your commission gets to a manager, there's flexibility in that process, and typically that process is not outlined in great detail in the charter. Retires, and there's a deputy town manager who is the heir apparent, for lack of a better word, who maybe by motion moves up into that position once your town manager steps back. You may have a situation where your town manager retires and your town commission engages a headhunter or an executive recruiter, and they do a nationwide search to find a town manager, which happens very often. There's also times where the commission will, on its own, through HR, go out and engage a process to find a manager without hiring a third-party consultant. So there are a lot of different ways to go about hiring a town manager. That process is ultimately controlled by the commission, and the charter is generally very limited as it relates to defining that process, because of what works this time may not necessarily work the next time. You may have a different elected body that wants to pursue that process in a different way. So the charter typically doesn't get into the details as to how you would engage a manager, only identifying that that individual should be appointed or removed by a majority of the commission. And this brings me to one question that I have for you all. Some municipal charters require that the manager be hired or terminated by a 4/5 vote of the commission, as opposed to a simple majority. That is a pure policy issue. Some cities require a simple majority. I've seen it both ways. It exists both ways currently in Broward County and throughout the state of Florida. The way I have it presented is it requires a majority vote, which is essentially what you have now, where if you have a town manager, it's not a charter officer, but by a majority of 3, the manager can be hired or terminated. Again, I didn't know if you had any interest in recommending something other than a simple majority, so I just made a note.
What was the other one?
The other one would typically be a supermajority. There's a philosophy that I've heard discussed a number of times publicly, where if you're a town manager, or if you're a town attorney, or any position that reports to a 5-member elected body, you need to be very careful about counting votes. When you know that your job is at risk of essentially keeping satisfied any 3 members of the commission, that may impact how you do your job. Again, I'm not a town manager. I can't speak for how any particular manager approaches that position. But when you know that it takes 4/5 to fire you as opposed to 3/5, or 4/5 to hire you as opposed to 3/5, you may have a little more security in your position, but it may also tell the elected body that it's not a position that can be changed on a whim. That there really needs to be a overwhelming majority of the commission that wants a change in order to terminate or hire a manager. But I can tell you from as a charter officer in other cities, when we go and apply for work in other cities, sometimes it takes a majority, sometimes it takes a supermajority to hire a city attorney. But I can tell you going in, we don't like the idea. I don't like the idea of being hired on a 3-2 vote. I wouldn't want to take a position on a 3-2 vote, knowing that I may have the support of a majority, but it's very tenuous support. But if you know going in that it's a 4/5 majority or unanimous support going in, you're going to feel much more confident coming into that position that you have the support of the elected body. Now, again, the elected officials change. Managers, the average lifespan for a manager in the state of Florida, I believe, is about 4 or 5 years. It's not very long. There are some city managers like Charlie Dodge in Pembroke Pines has been the city manager there for over 40 years. He is a true outlier in Broward County. Most city managers, again, I don't say they change frequently, but they're to a large extent, and city attorneys too, are at the whim of the elected body, which is voted on every 4 years or every 2 years, depending. There's always a change in majority of a commission. So having a 4/5 security in the charter does manager, but again, it also, and I've heard it argued both ways from an elected perspective as well, as to whether it's in fact the right thing for a particular city. I don't have an opinion whether 4/5 or a simple majority is the correct approach, but I wanted to lay both options out there for you to consider because both options do exist in municipal charters in Broward County. So I don't know if you have an opinion.
And when would we need to do that?
Well, the objective of this process is to have a document that a majority of the 5 of you support.
Yeah.
So, as we go, we'd like to get through as much of it as possible. If we need to have a placeholder, like this is one point we want to come back to, obviously we can do that too. But the objective is to get a document that at least a majority of you support.
So we should make a recommendation on this.
Again, right now, I have it presented as a simple majority. If we could leave it that way, or if you'd like to see 4/5, or if there was a vote to, change that to 4/5, I would make that change before our next meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to change that to a 4/5 majority.
I
And if
second.
we all want to vote it down,
I second it.
vote it down.
Okay?
I second it.
Any discussion on that?
I agree.
Me too. The more the merrier.
All right. You want to call the roll on
All vote.
okay.
Motion made by
Lucy.
Lucy,
Yeah.
Any discussion?
seconded by
Harry.
Harry Schrader. Vice Chair Schrader,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Lucy,
Yes.
Paulette,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
So before our next meeting, we will make that change. And when you see this document at the meeting as we move forward, that change will be incorporated.
Okay.
So section 4.01B, I'm just going to move right along, speaks to the qualifications of the town manager. And again, you have flexibility here. I've looked at some other charters, again, of comparable size, of comparable position, but this is not set in stone. And if you have an opinion as to the qualifications of the town manager, you do have the ability to change what I've presented. But the way I have offered is that the town manager shall have a combination of a bachelor's degree in public administration, business administration, or other related field from an accredited college or university, and 3 years of public administration experience, or, if they did not have that academic background, 10 years of experience in public administration, with at least 3 of those years as a manager or an assistant manager. And the position must be credited through the ICMA. It's the International City Managers Association. The ICMA is an international organization that accredits city managers, assistant city managers, and other public employees. Now, for purposes of this section, I've added a definition to other related field when it comes to the type of degree that a manager should have. It references public administration and business administration, but because you have professional employees of a variety of backgrounds, you have engineers, you have planners, you have finance directors, you have parks and rec directors, I've seen situations where all of those positions could be elevated to a city manager. And you may have a finance director with an MBA and a degree in finance, or you may have a community development director with a degree in urban planning. You know, the other related fields language essentially says if you have a degree that enables you to be a department head in the town, that degree would also allow you to be the city manager. So as long as you have a degree that is one which qualifies you to be a department head in the town, it doesn't have to be a degree in public administration, doesn't have to be a degree in business. But if you have an engineering degree and you're the town engineer and the town commission wants to appoint you as the manager, you would be able to serve in that capacity because of your professional background. So it provides some flexibility without listing every kind of degree that a manager might otherwise have. So that was sort of how we captured that particular concept. But again, a bachelor's degree, it does not require a graduate degree. Some charters do. But again, people get to the position of town manager or city manager through a lot of different ways. Sometimes people have advanced degrees. Sometimes people work their way up from, and it happens. And so, you know, you may not have the academic pedigree, but you still may have the experience and the exposure that puts you in a position that gives you the background and the skill set that the commission may want you to be the manager.
That's fair.
And the charter, the objective is for the charter to be able to accommodate those options if the commission decided they had a 25-year employee who may never have finished college but has done every job in the town and is competent and capable and deserves the opportunity to be manager. So this gives the commission that flexibility in the event that those cases were to arise. So that's what we put for qualifications. Again, it's very broad. I don't know if you have an opinion on that. I'm happy to leave it as is and move on. But that was sort of how we framed the qualifications, just taking that from some other municipal charters.
What do you guys think?
I think,
I think it's fine the way it is.
Fine.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this next section is a fairly common provision that you have in municipal charters, and it just accommodates the manager's absence. So you have a professional serving in the capacity of a town manager, and that person is, going on vacation, has an unexpected family situation. They need to be out of the office. What do you do? Who's in charge of the town? Well, by a letter filed with the town commission, the manager is authorized to designate, subject to the town commission's approval, a qualified town administrative officer to serve, in the capacity of town manager during that individual's absence. So the charter provides a mechanism for the manager to appoint an acting city manager should they be absent. That person is subject to the commission approval, and the commission would have the ability to change that person should they so choose. But the manager would ultimately get to decide who they want to serve in their stead, again, subject to the commission's approval. So it just provides for the appointment of an acting individual in the event that there's a need for the manager to be out of the office.
Do we have an assistant town manager?
The charter does not contemplate an assistant manager, and typically doesn't. Once you have your charter officers, your city attorney, town manager, sometimes the town clerk, your manager really, particularly through the budget process, controls the rest of the organizational structure of the town. I mean, you have at the top of the organizational chart, you've got the residents of Pembroke Park. Below the residents, you've got a 5-member elected body. Below that elected body, you have 2 branches. You have your town manager, you have your town attorney. Everybody else falls under your town manager. Your town attorney is sitting over here alone, reporting to the commission, working with your professional staff, but the rest of the town falls under the jurisdiction.
So what would be the stepping ladder here?
In what context?
Below the city manager?
Well, it depends, and it really depends on how the manager wanted to organize the town.
I mean, what do we currently have here?
I would defer to the clerk for that. I'm new enough to not exactly know how the town's organizational structure is set up. Remember, you have a very, very unique situation in Pembroke Park. There is no other charter in Broward County like the charter Pembroke Park has. I'd be surprised if there was another one in the state like Pembroke Park has.
200 years old.
Well, there was one. Remember, Hillsborough Beach, up in the north central part of the county, had a charter similar to yours. They amended their charter about 10 years ago and went to the commission manager for them. But the way it currently operates, your mayor oversees the administrative function of the town. Your vice mayor oversees the financial department, the finance department, and the financial operation of the town. You have a clerk commissioner who oversees the clerk's function, and you have two other commissioners who oversee other town departments. Now, those other two positions are currently vacant, so I don't know who is overseeing those other departments. I candidly, I don't know exactly how the town's organizational chart flows. The clerk
So
may
do-
have a better idea about that. The
Do
manager
you know?
might.
Can you tell us?
Sure. Well, you have here, like always, you have the residents.
Yeah. No, start with the town manager and we'll go down.
Okay, well, yeah, but I gotta explain to you why I'm saying this. So you have the town manager.
Yeah.
Right? You have the commissioners, then you have the town manager, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the department heads and then staff. The issue that we have because of the way our charter sits is that you have the town manager, which then talks to the commissioners. But the directors also get voted on to approve and also to fire those individuals. So that becomes a problem because when your town manager says, I want to fire so-and-so, this is my recommendation, and the commission says no, then, how does your town manager then have the ability to continue to move the town forward when then the directors know I can just go to the commission, straight to the commission, not really to the town manager. So that's why, sorry?
So we're really paying him for no authority, really.
And the other problem is that, understand also what I'm saying is you also have then the employees. The employees, if now, for example, an employee's having an issue, the manager can also not fire them because they have to go to their director. So the chain of command, it's more like a loop rather than a chain. How's that sound?
Better I didn't try to explain it.
Yeah, that
So,
When the manager has been out, he leaves me in charge.
so
That's how
if
it happens
the
now.
employee have an issue, if the manager's saying, I'm gonna fire you, the employee can say, let me go to the commissioner, and the commissioner can say, no, you're not being fired.
Correct.
Crazy. So what are you paying the manager employees if he can't manage the employees?
Well, that's why the attorney was
That-
explaining that. That's
So-
why this type of government is
Part of the
not
reason you're here
helpful.
is to address the issue you're describing.
yeah,
Let
but
me-
in order to take care of it, okay, the manager's going on vacation for 2 weeks, so
The commission
in
needs
this,
to stay out of it.
right, I agree with that. But somebody would need to take his spot, so,
Under my proposal, the way I have this,
Yeah.
if the manager was going to be out for 2 weeks, before he or she left, the manager would appoint the town clerk as the acting manager.
Or something.
That would be presented to the commission. The commission would give it their stamp of approval, their blessing. The manager would leave town. The town clerk would be the acting town manager until the manager returned. Everything that the manager was authorized to do, the town clerk in that capacity would be authorized to do. I don't want to digress a little, but one unique thing about the charter, there's a concept in Florida that's called dual office holding. You're prohibited from serving in 2 offices at the same time in the state of Florida. There are some limited exceptions to it, but you can't serve 2 offices that have concurrent terms. So you can't be a member of the town commission and a member of the House of Representatives at the same time. It's a violation of the Florida Constitution. But it's not only elected offices. So in other words, the town manager has certain independent authority under Florida law, and it's considered an office. Your building official is an office. Your police chief is considered an office. And you can't serve in 2 offices in more than one time. But you had a very unique situation in Pembroke Park that had, me and some of my colleagues scratching our heads for a long time. This was before we represented the town. And we never quite understood how it happened that you previously had a town manager who was also an elected official in another city. And we never understood how that occurred without violating the dual office holding provision in the Florida
He was
Constitution.
working in 2 cities?
No, he was an elected official in one city, and this is years ago. This is
Right,
not current,
right,
this is
right.
years ago. But so I never understood how that was even possible, given the prohibition on dual office holding, until I got involved in this process and became more familiar with the town charter. And the answer is your town charter today makes absolutely no reference to a town manager. You know, the position of town manager in Pembroke Park today is not an office. They have no sovereign authority under Florida law.
So why have?
Because the position is not created by your charter, because your mayor oversees the administrative function of the town. So you have this real funky governmental structure where you've got a town manager, correct, the town employee, he runs the day-to-day operations of the town.
Now,
But today, J.C. Jimenez, he runs the day-to-day operations of the town. But his authority is constrained by the way that your charter is set up. So if he wants to go and decide, I don't like the town clerk, I want to fire the town clerk,
You can do that.
he can't do that.
You can't?
Cannot.
Okay.
Cannot, not without going to the commission. And the commission can say, you know what, Mr. Manager, we respect your recommendation, we respect your position, but we like the town clerk.
Is that a bad thing?
Again, it's a policy decision. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I can tell you, if you're hiring somebody to run the day-to-day operations of the town, the people who work for that person need to know where the buck stops. And it either needs to stop with the manager under a manager commission form of government, or not, or it could stop with the mayor under a strong mayor form of government. But somewhere there needs to be a clear line as it relates to who does the staff work for. And that's not always a clear question to answer. Now, you may recall, I'm going to go back just a little bit to our last meeting and just read something to you again that we talked about last time. You know, we talked about the idea of non-interference. And this is the interplay between the manager and the commission. And I would guess, and I haven't spoken to the manager about this, I would guess if there is one thing that your town manager would like to see in the charter more than anything else, it's this concept of non-interference, which says, and this is what you approved last time we talked about, except for the purposes of inquiries and investigation, the commission or its members shall deal with town officers and employees who are subject to the direction and supervision of the manager solely through the manager. So what that says is that your commission, your mayor, your vice mayor, your commissioner cannot tell the code inspector to go cite that person, or cannot tell the Parks and Rec director, or the Public Works director, the grass is overgrown at this park, go mow the grass. If they want that to happen, they tell the manager. Those department heads and that staff, they work for the manager. The manager would give that direction. But you don't have a situation where you've got your Public Works director taking directions from the vice mayor and from the mayor and from one commissioner over here. This person works for the manager. And all direction to staff would flow through the manager. And if your commission has a problem with the way that your staff is performing, recourse is through the manager. So it provides a more clear organizational structure for the town. It gives your town employees a better sense of who they report to and eliminates some of that confusion because they know, and this really is for your staff as much as anybody else. So your staff knows when the mayor comes or when a commissioner comes and says, I need you to do this now. I need you to go help this resident now. They say, Mr. Mayor, excuse me, I respect what you're asking me. I appreciate the question. I need you to talk to the manager. Because that employee doesn't work for the mayor. That employee works for the manager. And the manager can give that direction. And if the mayor's not happy with the manager, or if a commissioner's not happy with the manager, there's recourse. Because the manager works for the commission. It's a very clear delineation as it relates to those duties and responsibilities. Okay. So moving forward, while the position of manager is not currently reflected in the charter, it is identified in the code. So we have an ordinance in Pembroke Park which sets out the duties, responsibilities, and powers of the manager. So what I did, rather than recreate the wheel, so to speak, or look outside for some of this authority, I took the provision of section 2-94 of the town code and essentially copied it and pasted it into the duties and responsibilities of your town manager in the charter. So everything you're seeing on subsection 4, that A through R, that language is currently in the town code. It was adopted by ordinance in the town commission. I haven't changed it at all. So these provisions, these 12 or 15 subsections, these are currently the duties and responsibilities of your town manager. So I didn't have any opinion as to whether it was right or wrong. It's currently the way the town operates. I just shifted it from the code to the.
And you didn't see anything that...
No, you know what? I didn't. There was no real outlier language. There are things I could have added. There are things I could have taken away. But again, those were policy decisions. Your town commission has already decided by ordinance this is what the duties and responsibilities and the powers of the manager should be. There was no need for me to insert myself from a policy perspective in that discussion. So I kept that verbatim as is. Okay. So that's the town manager. Now you have two charter officers. And when I say charter officers, I'm talking about employees that report to your town commission. You have a town manager and you have a town attorney. Hey, how you doing, Mayor? You have a manager and you have a town attorney. The other position that would be identified in your charter, not as a report. You want to come in, Mayor?
What's that?
You have something you want to say to the board?
No, I just came up to check on the chickens and clean up the park. Working all the time. I just saw you guys in here, thought I'd say hi.
Hello.
Wait, good evening.
Thanks for stopping
I'm
by.
normally dressed like this, but I was out cleaning the chicken coops. I'll go you later.
So, your town clerk is not a charter officer in the sense that it's not a position that reports to the commission, but it is a position that we typically see in the charter because the town clerk does have some independent authority under Florida law, under Chapter 119 in particular, which deals with public records. So the way I have it worded is that the town manager shall appoint a town clerk when a vacancy in that position. Fairly straightforward policy statement. Now, the duties of the town clerk primarily is to be the custodian of the town's seal and all of the town's records and papers. Chapter 119, which is Florida's Public Records Act, it defines a term that's called the custodian of public records. Right? Most places, Pembroke Park included, your town clerk is the custodian of public records. Right? It's an appointed position under Florida law. It's not always the clerk, but more often than not, it is the clerk who serves in that capacity. And your city clerk is very capable and knows how to handle records requests and her responsibilities under Florida law when it comes to public records. But typically, our charter identifies that position, both the town having a clerk and that individual being the keeper, so to speak, of the town's records and the town's seal, for that matter. The other charter officer position is one that's certainly near and dear to me, and that's the town attorney position. The language in your charter is not uncommon in what we see in municipal charters around the state. Subsections 1 and 2, I have pulled, as I did with the manager, some language from some comparable charters for you to consider. Much like the manager, the first section identifies the position, creates the position in the town. But what it says is that there shall be a town attorney of the town, appointed or removed by an affirmative vote of the town commission. And here I would ask you the same question I asked with regards to the manager. You voted to have the town attorney appointed or removed by a 4/5 vote. typically what you see is if it's the same 4/5 for a manager, it would be the same for an attorney for the same reasons. I don't know if you'd like to keep the attorney a simple majority or do the same thing and make it a super majority for the same reason as we just talked about. Again, I left it a simple majority as I did with the manager, but I leave that really up to you all in the context of a policy decision. But just going through that section, so we've got a town attorney appointed or removed by a vote of the commission. That individual serves as the town's chief legal advisor to the commission, but also all of the department heads and the town's professional staff. We talk about an organizational chart. So here you've got the commission with two branches, the manager and the attorney. The attorney has a solid line, a direct reporting line to the commission, but the attorney has what we kind of refer to as a dotted line to the manager and to all of the professional staff. We interface with the commission on a regular basis in the cities that we represent, but day to day, we deal with professional staff. It's the staff that calls our office and asks us to review contracts. It's the staff that calls our office and asks us to draft ordinances or prosecute code violations. So we work for the commission as their direct report as that charter officer, but our daily interface primarily is with the manager and the manager's professional staff. So in the charter, we identify that the town attorney represents the commission, but also the town and also the professional staff. Now, we do not represent commissioners individually, nor do we represent the manager or any town employees individually. So if there was an issue that arose, an ethics issue or a criminal issue, there may be circumstances where the town would pay for a legal defense of an elected official or a public employee, but they're limited under Florida law. It depends on the nature of what allegation might have otherwise been charged or arose, but typically we as the town attorney do not represent the mayor, we do not represent the commissioners, we do not represent the manager or the clerk or any town employees in their individual capacity. So qualifications and compensation of the town attorney. One other thing we did put in here is I put that the town attorney could be an employee of the town or a outside individual who's hired to serve in that capacity. And this is really a philosophical issue for most cities. For years and years, the town of Pembroke Park was represented by a law firm, a gentleman named Chris Ryan. He's your former town attorney. He was a town attorney for, I don't know how many years, but more than 10 or 12 years. Mr. Ryan actually had first hired our law firm and me to assist with some Inspector General investigations back in 2015. For whatever reason, I don't know all the politics or reason behind it, Mr. Ryan and his law firm transitioned from the town, and the town brought in Melissa Anderson as an in-house employed town attorney. And the charter allowed both of those options. So again, it's a philosophical issue whether the town wants to have an employee serve as its town attorney or have a law firm hired to serve in that capacity. The way I drafted it, it kept the door open. Either option would be permissible under the charter. So we know that your town attorney must be a member in good standing of the Florida Bar, which is standard, with at least 10 years of experience and practice in the courts of the state of Florida. Compensation for the town attorney, again, that's a matter of negotiation between the commission and the town attorney. If it was an employee, it would be memorialized in an employment contract. If it's an outside law firm, it would be in a fee engagement or retainer agreement, but that's something negotiated between the commission and the law firm or the individual. I also kept language in there that allows the town commission by resolution to authorize the engagement of special counsel. Not any one lawyer can do everything. There are specialty issues that arise from time to time in the practice of law. If you have an in-house lawyer, like you did for several years with Miss Anderson, she hired us as special counsel to assist her with some of the things that she was working on, because it's simply too much for any one person to do, irrespective of the size of the town. We have, the benefit of our law firm, and just I'll speak from my own standpoint. We have 13 lawyers in my law firm. We're sort of a full-service legal department, so I have real estate lawyers and land use lawyers. I handle all the ethics issues and public records issues for all of our public clients. So we have different divisions within our law firm that can handle various issues that might arise. So there may be a lesser need for outside counsel. But not knowing how the town is going to structure its legal department in the future, we wanted to make sure the door was open so that the town was ultimately able to engage whoever it needed to provide the appropriate services to the town. Now, much like with the manager, your charter did not identify duties and responsibilities of your town attorney, but your code did. So what I did in this case as well was I copied and pasted section 2-100.2 of the code into the charter. I didn't touch any of the provisions as it relates to the duties and responsibilities of the town attorney. These are the responsibilities your town attorney currently has, and we figured that because the commission had set those by ordinance, we would leave them as they are and simply embrace them in the town charter. So when it comes to the administrative side of the town, those are the three positions we identified. Two of those positions are direct reports to the commission. The third being the clerk, and because of the clerk's unique role under Florida law as the custodian of public records, that position is often identified in the charter as well. So those are the three administrative positions I went through. That is Article 4 of the charter. I don't want to suppose you want to hang on and keep going through the finance section. The next section is a little weightier. The financial procedures do get into some greater detail, particularly as it relates to the form and content of the budget and transfers and how that process ultimately it is one of the longer provisions of the charter. So
And it requires full attention.
it's probably among the more complicated sections. So
Money always is.
I don't want to overstay my welcome. But unless there's anything else you want me to touch on tonight, my inclination was to pause at least there and entertain any questions.
I had a question about something we discussed last month.
Sure.
We had talked about the idea of how to, if somebody becomes elected a commissioner and then says, hey, I'm going to go on a cruise for 6 months and just doesn't do their job for 6 months. Because they're an elected official, there seemed to be an issue about how to remove them.
Yeah, this is a difficult issue. And what I would suggest is the following. There is only one case in the state of Florida. It's out of a little town in North Florida somewhere called DeBarry, where a city commission removed one of their own. It is a circuit court decision, which means it is not binding law in Florida. But it did happen, and it was upheld by the circuit court. There was never an appeal. Appellate decisions are considered binding law. Circuit court decisions are not.
Okay.
What I did was I kept the language that is in your current charter in the proposed charter. So I did not change it.
Okay.
So what that would mean is if there was the situation you described, somebody's elected and they decide to go on safari for 6 months.
For whatever reason.
Whatever it
They're
is.
sitting at home watching television. They just don't do their job.
Whatever it is. And let's say the commission avails itself of the forfeiture provision in the charter and makes the decision that, I think it's going to 3 consecutive absences, but whatever it is, makes the decision that, the commissioner from District 2 hasn't been here 4 meetings in a row, right? We think that they've, are derelict in their duty and no longer qualified to serve as an elected official. If the commission wanted to take action to remove that person, my suspicion is if the commissioner who is being affected sought to fight that, they would fight that action, and a judge in a black robe downtown would ultimately make that decision. But because the issue is debatable, I left it in there. So if the commission wanted to avail itself of that opportunity in the event that the scenario you describe occurred, there would be a mechanism in the charter for them to do that. Whether it was legally enforceable, we would need a court to tell us. So that was sort of how I didn't want to take it out because I didn't want to foreclose the opportunity. So at least there is something in the charter that says if this person is not there for this period of time, your commission has some option. Now, it may not be a winning option, and legally we would caution the commission that these are the things that could happen, but there is a mechanism in the charter that would allow the commission to take some action.
So you're saying that we can hire somebody in that job and they don't have to do their job pretty much?
But you can't force somebody to show up.
Well, but in the regular world, if I don't show up to work, they don't fire me. They consider me to have quit
Yeah.
because I just didn't show up.
It's abandonment.
So
I mean,
whatever, they don't feel like they fired me.
We see it less
I can
where
run for
people,
commission.
well, less where people are ill or don't show up.
Can't do nothing.
More where people, and unfortunately we see this more often now than we have in prior years, where there becomes such hostility
Oh, yeah.
and such nastiness on the dais. And there's not a job description or a rule book that says that elected officials need to be nice or need to be courteous or need to be respectful. Civil, correct. And there are plenty of instances where elected officials can be quite combative and quite quite abrasive, and it can get very ugly. And candidly, as the lawyer, it can be difficult to sit there sometimes. But just because the colleagues of a commissioner may not like how one of them is doing their job or conducting themselves publicly, doesn't mean that they get to remove them from office. Now, there is a process called censure, censure. It's a parliamentary procedure process, which essentially is somewhat of a public reprimand. Now, there's no fines or penalties or removal attached to it, but it is a public formal reprimand under parliamentary procedure. Now, that option is always available to the commission, but again, that doesn't remove the person who may be derelict in their duty and leaving an entire district without representation.
Yeah.
So, those are the kinds of things where, if somebody was simply absent or failing to show up to work, right, and the remaining members of the commission said, you know what, enough is enough, we're going to adopt a resolution, have certain public and very specific findings to support removing this person from office. We're going to take this action. That person, it essentially shifts the burden. And that person would have to decide, do I want to challenge the action of the elected body, or do I want to say, you know what, they're right. I haven't showed up for 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't deserve to be there. Wow. But again, that's a process that would have to play out. And I can tell you,
Florida and its laws.
I have represented elected officials that have said to me, the only thing they want to know is, can my colleagues remove me from office? And if the answer is no, then it's, they're not there to make friends. And as long as their colleagues cannot remove them, then they have their agenda and they have their way about them, and that's
taking my tax dollars.
That's how they intend to. And I'm not suggesting that's happening in Pembroke Park, but it is happening.
Yeah, but to me, it's that's why I'm saying that I would hope that there would be some way in the charter to say, you can't be removed just because somebody doesn't like the way you vote.
Right.
But if you don't come to work,
Not doing your
if you
part.
don't come to meetings, if you don't vote on anything, if you don't represent your district, then yes,
What's the point?
I mean,
you can be removed.
so here's, and just again, not exactly what you're referring to, but an example that's taking place right now in North Miami Beach.
Oh yeah.
All right. So there's an issue going on right now in North Miami Beach that is questioning whether the mayor lives in the city. Right? I don't know if he does or he doesn't. I only know what I saw on Channel 10.
Yeah,
But what I know is that there are some allegations that he lives in Davie. and he's either renting or staying at somebody's apartment complex in North Miami Beach. I think it's maybe Miami Beach. I don't know if it's North Miami Beach.
It's North
Is it North Miami Beach? Okay.
It's North Miami, yeah.
Okay.
He has
So,
to live in the town.
in that case, you may have some members of the commission that want to say, you don't live in the city, we want to remove you. And maybe a majority think that. Again, I don't know, but maybe 4 members of the commission say, you live in Davie, you don't live in the city, you have no right to be mayor, you are unqualified under the charter. Well, they don't get to remove him. It would take a judge to remove him. So that's the situation where even if the commission wanted to vote and do all the things that they felt was the right thing to do to remove one of their own, he is in that position until a judge in Miami-Dade County says otherwise. That's the way that elections work. So, anyways, that's. But to your point, Ms. Weber, we have a forfeiture provision currently in our charter. I kept it in there. I'm not suggesting for a moment that it's unenforceable, but I think it's debatable.
Okay.
And I think leaving it in there will give you options.
Basically the best we can do.
So I think it may be the best you could do it at this moment. Until the court gives us some more clarity there.
Welcome to Florida.
Yeah.
Florida and their laws.
But better to have it there than not.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
Okay. That was my little question.
Yeah. What's up, Miss Walker? You got a question?
I don't know how to word it. Earlier on, you said there is who is the head or between that can go to the manager or the commission one way or the other, something like that.
Oh, he was talking about the employees, saying that if an employee, the way we have it now, if I don't like what you say, because you're the manager, I can just go to commissioner, and the commissioner can say, no, you're not going to fire that person, instead of leaving it to the town person who is over that area. The commissioners is minding business where they shouldn't be, pretty much.
Just in general, the person with the authority
And you
needs
were
to
saying
have.
that's kind of issues we need to settle on that.
Yeah.
All I'm suggesting is that there needs to be a clear delineation of who reports to whom.
Okay.
And again, from my perspective, it doesn't matter if it's the mayor, it doesn't matter if it's the manager. We represent Lighthouse Point and we represent Plantation. They have strong mayor forms of government. The buck stops with the mayor. Those mayors run the day-to-day operations of those cities. But the employees know that they work for the mayor. Right? Here you have a situation where it's a little bit of a hybrid. Because let's say you're the finance director. Or let's say you're a finance staff member, an admin in finance. Under your charter, the vice mayor oversees the finance department. So if the manager hires the finance director and the finance director hires an admin, does that admin report to the finance director or the manager, the vice mayor, or the mayor? Who do they take direction from? I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there is some gray area.
Yeah.
So it's not entirely clear. So having that non-interference provision, telling your employees that they can only take direction from the manager. Now, it's not to say the commission can't ask questions and inquire and investigate. I mean, your elected officials have every right to know what is going on in the town. This is not to keep them in the dark about anything. They have every right and responsibility to know what's going on.
So
But-
having a mayor, town manager thing that we voted on, I'm thinking, should we revisit that, or how does that work again? Because you said you're kind of divided with it.
I could tell you a couple of things. Most cities in the state of Florida have a commission manager form of government. There are 2 cities in Broward with a strong mayor. There are a few big cities in Florida that have a strong mayor. Orlando has a strong mayor. Most of the other cities have a commission manager form of government where you have a career professional who is trained and educated in public administration. and that person runs the day-to-day. Now, that's not to say that the mayor is not unqualified, but you never know what you're going to get with the mayor. I mean, again, the mayor in Lighthouse Point is a firefighter. Excuse me, the mayor in Lighthouse Point is a firefighter, right? He's a very competent manager, but by trade he's a firefighter, right? So he's gotten up to speed and knows what it takes to run the city, and he's very, very capable and very competent. But you just don't always know what you're going to get when it comes to running for office and serving in the capacity of a strong mayor. But again, we represent them both. I'm not at all suggesting or recommending one over the other. It is purely a philosophical issue. My only comment would be, and this is more speaking for your staff, there should be some delineation. Because I think that your current form of government with the mayor, and the vice mayor, and the clerk commissioner, and other commissioners overseeing departments, that I think is antiquated.
They need to put a hold on that.
You should either have a strong mayor, which is defined, or a manager commissioner form of government, in my opinion.
Yeah, but didn't we already,
Yeah, we did.
we already stated
but
that.
that's what we say.
You've already decided,
Yeah,
as far as I'm
okay.
concerned, that commissioner manager is the way to go.
Okay.
And I don't disagree with that. I haven't heard anything that's made me change my mind on that.
So do we have a commissioner, manager, or a mayor?
Right now,
Yes.
you've got this
We
strange
don't know what we
hybrid.
have.
No, but we voted.
But
on
the
something.
recommendation
The
is
recommendation,
commissioner manager.
The recommendation is for
commissioner
a commission
manager? Yeah.
manager.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it was okay.
Yeah, the recommendation is for a
There's a
commission.
difference between what we're operating under now and what we're writing for the future.
That's right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a
wanna
commissioner,
change it.
manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do agree with that. I don't agree with employees having that right to go over their if the manager is there and he's over those areas, no one under there should be able to go over his head to go to someone
No,
else,
should follow
to a
the chain
commissioner,
of
something.
command.
Yeah.
That's way
Chain
out
of
of line.
command.
And for a commissioner to say, "Oh no, he's not going to be right," that's what are we paying him for? If that's the case, then you oversee. The commissioners oversee it.
The
What you
person-
need a manager for if he's not going to be able to do his job?
The person who has the responsibility has to have the authority.
That's ridiculous. No, it's too much. Oh, Pembroke Park.
I'm having a headache.
My goodness.
Okay, so
1957, and we still
That's all
there.
I got for you tonight.
Okay.
that's the year I was born. So that was
Well, it was
the
before I
city
was-
charter is as old as I am.
Definitely older than me.
59.
Nah. 59 was the
59.
then it was I was 2 years old. I thought it was 57. They told me it was 57.
59. June 20th, 1959.
That thing say 57.
Okay, guys.
Do I want to make a motion to adjourn?
No, not yet. We just have one more thing that we wanted to bring to your attention, and that is, Bianca, will today be your last meeting?
I need to know like how much longer this is gonna be going for, at least.
Well, now we're back to, we have another attorney, so we're back to doing it monthly. And he's already submitted to us a sample draft, so we're now just really finalizing where we're at, I would say.
From my perspective, I can tell you.
Yeah, don't quit.
It's just once
It's
a
only
month.
1 hour.
It's just once a month.
Stay
If
with
we're
us.
gonna be
Don't
wrapping
abandon
it up
us.
soon.
It will take one more meeting to finish going through the chart,
Okay.
Yeah, we are moving on.
right?
We're not dragging on like before. No,
Okay.
to be honest.
If we can get through the next meeting, which will probably take a little
A
more
two.
than an hour.
Meeting or two. Yeah.
Meeting or two.
Okay.
Well, meeting or two. I don't want to keep Ms. Weber out too late.
No, not Miss Weber, Walker.
Ms. Walker.
But it's just for today. I'm flexible. It's just for today.
Let's say you had 2 more meetings.
My job
Right,
starts
March.
early in the morning, folks.
Okay.
My intent is if you all can get to a document that majority of you can approve recommending to the commission, we'll have a new commission next month. What I'd like to do is by May or June, depending on their schedule, the manager's schedule, is schedule a workshop or two with the commission where we can present the charter to them based on your recommendations.
And you would do that, or we would do that?
I would do that, but
He has to do it.
I would like at least a few of you there, because again, my objective is to present your document. This is, I mean, I'm the scribe, so to speak, and trying to, coach through the process, but I want this document to reflect your intentions.
Okay.
There's some legal issues, but most of these issues are policy issues. So I wanna make sure that I have a document that you all are comfortable recommending to the commission to govern the future of the town. Now, I don't know if the commission is gonna
Right.
say yay or nay or.
Really? Oh, yeah.
I don't know. You all will know better than me. I don't know what the perception will be of the document.
We're going to do all this and maybe it doesn't come to nothing?
It's entirely up to the commission.
Because when they set in their ways and want to keep it that way.
But remember, you'll have five, at
Hopefully
least,
we will have 5.
you'll have 5 members, but at least 3 new members, or at least 2 new members, potentially 3 new members.
Okay, the
So,
paper that you
we'll
sent
commit.
to us.
I'll commit to the.
Okay.
A couple more meetings.
Yes.
Thank you. We really do appreciate it.
What's on it? Yeah. Okay, the paper that you sent us this week, is it the same thing you sent
This is it.
the last month?
Well,
No, this is revised.
remember, I changed,
Does Bianca have the
I have everything.
the one from before? Okay.
and remember, there are a couple changes tonight that I will make and send you a
Oh,
new one
boy.
for next
Yeah.
month. So I'm trying to keep it as current as we, as we can.
Like we went to the 4/5.
4/5.
Okay.
But when we come to the next meeting, we'll have one of these
When you
updated.
come to the next meeting,
Okay.
I defer to the clerk, you should have a new one sitting there waiting for you.
All right.
Send it to us before.
And then we'll start with the
We'll
financial.
Send
start
it
with
to
the
us.
financials.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now?
Now you could do a motion to adjourn, but,
What about the next meeting?
yeah, there you go.
Monday, March 27th?
Yes, the next meeting is set for, Monday, March 27th at 6 PM. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'd like to make that motion.
Second?
Yes, second.
Motion, motion to, all in favor? Say aye. We have adjourned at, 7:20. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You too.